Let's find out. Talking enough about picks and bans, let's get into them, so to speak. It will be Simplicity with the first pick this time round. And let's see where they head overall. I mean, they left Kuang up last time. Do you reckon they do the same thing? If it's not broke, don't fix it, so to speak?
I think so. I mean, you prove that you can beat it, that game, so you may as well keep it going. But I do think that Flashpoint has a much better potential to adjust. They saw your game plan, and despite it being a pretty solid game for Simplicity, and they win not with ease, but relative ease, I'd say, against the top seed. I think that Flashpoint can change a couple things. I mean, that early game where they go to duo lane, first blood goes the way of StreakUp, then another kill goes Simplicity's way. I mean, if that gets cleaned up, then maybe it's a completely different outcome.
Will be Giannis and Jibbalonke then. Jormungandr, though, this time from Flashpoint, which has left Merlin or King Arthur available for 100% this time round. We'll see which one Simplicity gets the option of, if either or both even.
I was going to say, why not just ban either one? I mean, this tells me that Flashpoint thinks Merlin is significantly better than King Arthur.
And I can kind of agree with that. I think Merlin is super safe. He's got decent damage output in multiple different positions. So, when I say positions, I don't mean roles. I mean, like, in the jungle, he's great with Fire Stance. In the laning phase, use Blizzard for days. You know?
Yeah, he's versatile. He just does a lot of stuff very well. So I don't necessarily blame them. Simplicity had the option of the King Arthur, and they don't even take it. They go for Chronos again.
Chronos one more time, so Jing in response from Flashpoint. But what did Flashpoint follow up with? Is it Kuang here? I wouldn't like to see that later we were saying. I'd like to see a bit more of a delay, maybe, and see what else could be going for. Be Fafnir instead.
I like it. Take it out of Genetic's hands. He's been playing it a lot so far this phase.
And he's looked good too.
And he's looked very good on it. So, and you're kind of crippling that double hunter composition already, or double auto attacker composition. Arachne early on, so Simplicity kind of had the same thought that if Flashpoint pick Kuang with their next selection, then ban Arachne and Serket, we might be in some trouble. So let's just take the Arachne early. And this gets a lot worse without Fafnir on your side. I mean, Fafnir very good for Arachne as well. Don't forget, it wasn't just for the AMC and Chronos in game one. So now without that Fafnir boosting that attack speed, it might not be quite as potent.
But I do like the investment into Terra instead then, because that's going to allow a little bit more pressure onto a potential Kuang pick if they go for that.
Sure.
Because it doesn't deter you from wanting an Kuang there.
Yeah, and Wukong actually going to be picked up instead of that Kuang. Remember, that got banned away from Sibi in the second ban phase in game one. Seems to really want that safety of it here in this game. It doesn't have to worry about going up against the Jormungandr either. That was banned away. They really didn't know how to deal with that on maniaKK.
A lot of homework in this set already. Just from one picks and bans into the other without seeing anything else, you can already tell both teams are well aware of what each other is going to be bringing or attempting to bring to the table, so to speak. Simplicity then, with 2 more bans to go, they're going to opt for the new war. Obviously, if they can take a couple of these gods that Flashpoint might try and play safe against the Arachne with, it's not a bad idea.
Exactly. Nuwa, we've seen a lot of her all of a sudden, right? It feels like we're seeing a lot of her.
Whenever she one pick and she's just there.
They're like, oh man, they got to late game with Nuwa and she does 1 million damage and she's super safe, but you just don't always get to that late game.
Nope.
It's still a safe ban, I think, up against Flashpoint. I mean, we know that it's just a god that I think that most European mid laners have in the god pool.
Naja will be banned by Flashpoint as well, just trying to limit a little bit more of the options. The Naja is interesting because that would say the Naja would be a support pick there, right?
Yes.
So that's what they're a little bit worried about?
For genetics, and let maniaKK take that Terra into the solo lane. maniaKK seems to be a little bit more willing to stick to the Guardians, some of the other solo laners. He's still playing the Cerberus every once in a while, at least he was towards the beginning half of the phase. A little bit less now, but you know he still has that in the god pool, so I don't mind that ban. Again, no Kuang ban is interesting, though. Simplicity seems pretty prepared to take it on.
Well, at the moment, Kuang is still available as well after the counterban phase. Flashpoint will select Agni for the mid lane, so that'll go over to FaraKrik here. He's been around that for a while. Is Sobek now locked in? So that's an option, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an option, but I imagine it's Sobek
Wukong?
solo. Yeah, Sobek solo seems to be a little bit stronger for me here. Terra just brings so much automatically in the duo lane, and you don't really need the levels to have Earth and Fury be a nuts ultimate.
Very true indeed. So Flashpoint, one more pick to go. They probably need a jungler here, unless some Wukong's going to dip in there himself. What's it going to be? I don't know. It can't be Kuang here, right?
Could be. The cleanse makes it tough. I mean, you got to stick to your guns at some point, right? Like, this is your signature pick. You got to stick with it.
But the problem with that, I feel sometimes, is that you know you're good at this god, everybody knows you're good at this god, and now you feel you're forced to play it, when sometimes the matchups don't necessarily favor you, especially after we saw in game one.
Yeah, I mean, Simplicity's comp is really well handled to deal with it. I'm looking at DeathPanter and how well he can cleanse in the mid lane. It's going to be critical.
Very excited to see this one. Simplicity versus Flashpoint, game 2. The casters are ready. Let's get it over to them, shall we?
Thanks, Hindu. Thanks, Aggro. As they move into game number 2, Simplicity up against Flashpoint. Simplicity grabbed that first game victory with an excellent draft and an excellent execution of that draft. Now the question becomes, can Dzoni bounce back on his signature out Kuang for a second time?
Fusify changing things up, not having an execute on the Achilles, playing the Fafnir instead, and that was the big catalyst that allowed Simplicity that edge to get the early goal. Furies getting one at 13 minutes, getting the Fire Giant at 23 minutes in a straight-up 5-on-5 fight. But it's still a good Guardian, regardless, out of Genetics playing the Terra.
Yes, it certainly is. He's got a very strong pick over here. It's just a big switch up from Fusify, going from this aggressive Achilles who gets punished if he executes a bit off the mark, over here to this Fafnir with a lot of room, I would say, for error in terms of his personal safety, maybe not with hitting hammers. So it is a big switch in mentality. He's going to be doing an entirely different role, I feel like, for his team now. How quickly can he swap gears into that? And it's not just him. FaraKrik on a much more traditional mage now on the Agni in this game as well. Can Flashpoint come into this one and make those adjustments?
Finch, something's off here. Both supports are in the duel lane.
Yeah, do they not know that this is Season 6 and that's not what we're supposed to do anymore?
I don't think they got the memo.
Come on, guys. Doing it like we're in ranked games, obviously having some fun here. Is nothing wrong with putting the supports over here. In fact, we haven't even got to talk about it. Those, those ghost minions are over there, right?
That's right.
So that it's so much easier to get level 2 now. If all you do is just clear those first 2 waves, you'll make it to level 2.
That's right. The second wave getting that. Fusify going to get stunned out. No root from Genetics. He needs level 3 to get that. He got stunned at level 1, the Monolith at level 2. Dzoni going to take a quick little pause at 1.5 minutes into the game. Not really too much kills quite yet, but certainly a lot of action in this dueling.
That's right. We'll see plenty more sparks exchanged over here in the duel lanes. Looks like FaraKrik had a small issue. We'll get everything sorted out with them and get you guys right back into the action. But for me, this one feels like, how well can Dzoni kind of keep the mystery around, the aura around this Wukong, right? If he ends up going down 2-0 on his signature pick, maybe people stop banning it against him so much and they just let it through.
A lot of responsibility for DeathPanter to cleanse some of the executes. No Geb specifically, for Simplicity to make any advantage off of it. It's important to see how DeathPanter transitions with this pick. He's known for playing Hunters, yes, but I don't think I've seen him on the Chiron.
Certainly not recently. It's not a pick that comes to mind when I think of DeathPanter and what kind of stuff he can do. But I mean, he's such a strong mid laner. I certainly trust him with it. At one time was up in the SPL. They even made it 2 Worlds on that squad. He was on the top SML teams in Europe all of last year as well. So no surprise to see them continuing to do well here again in Season 6. I expect this guy will continue to be a part of everything they do well.
Maniac in the soul lane, going from the Jormungandr's Guardian to the Sobek on the Guardian's Blessing, something we haven't seen often enough in Season 6 with the changes to the Totem of Ku. Wanting an aggressive warrior should be the go-to option. Every minute, getting 125 gold for your team, not too bad if that adds up. Flashpoint already controlling the first one.
That's right. They expect, I imagine, to continue controlling those, and Maniac has gone into this one knowing he'll likely just have to give those up as the Sobek. Even if you're a regular warrior, just being able to, hit that totem with the cudgel is extra damage from lane. They probably can't quite match, so Wukong might have a slight advantage over even some other warriors.
Maniac needs to confirm the blue buff. That's something that Flashpoint could abuse if they really wanted to. Trying to strip away the blue buff from any Guardian will enable Sibi to get off an advantage in forcing minions under that tier 1 tower. Maniac already losing a little bit of gold because of the Guardian's Blessing. He has to stack that up, so he's got to concede a bunch of last hits, or at least unless if he doesn't want to delay the evolution of it. But once he does evolve it, that 48 gold a minute will inevitably not only allow him to catch up, but even surpass Sibi on the Wukong.
Exactly right. It's a long play taking this Guardian's Blessing over to the solo lane, and Maniac will eventually get the payoff. Even though it was Simplicity who were out in the front in Game 1, it wasn't so much that their aggression. A lot of those fights started because Flashpoint were looking for Faeles in particular on this Arachne and forcing him to ult really early on and disengage, and then they were trying to look for fights on the back end of that. I wonder if that's going to be as successful for them without the Achilles, if they'll look for something just entirely different in this game.
It could be easier this time with FaraKrik on the Agni, having more control than the Soul. Those bomb stuns could maybe prevent Faeles from getting up into the sky, although he would have to burn the purification beads before doing so.
I also don't have to worry about that Amusin Cobb damage. It was a bit obnoxious from DeathPanter
true.
in the last game, poking them down from such safety with that honey, with the bees as well. They couldn't quite match what he was able to do. This time on the FaraKrik, with FaraKrik on the Agni rather, they'll likely be the ones doing good damage from range with those bombs, the stuns as well. So yeah, maybe they'll just have a better time if they want to catch out Faeles.
In game 1, not only did Flashpoint not bully out Faeles, or at least find kills onto Faeles, but they couldn't abuse the immobile Amusin Cobb.
Not at all.
The Hives and the Talaria boots, too much mobility to lock him down. I think the front line from Simplicity made it easier for DeathPanter to do the AoE damage that he needed to. But this time, he's playing a safer Hunter in that mid lane. You're having CC immunity with that... How do you call it? Centaurians?
The Centaurus? Yeah,
Centaurus?
I think
That's the ultimate, yeah. CC immunity there. Plenty of range. 3 artillery shots. Expect that mid-jungle synergy to start abusing FaraKrik.
That's right. A lot of, we said already, but there's a lot of pressure on DeathPanter, I think, to execute on this Chiron because he does have so many tools in his kit. You know, he even has a bit of a heal in there as well. You know, the cleanse that we talk so much about. He can match some of that range, even surpass it from FaraKrik if he can hit his shots in the ultimate at that max range as well. They're not always the easiest, but you know, if they're being slowly, you know, plucked back at you by maniaKK, then maybe it's not so bad, or if genetics can root them and lock them down. So it was really a lot of pressure on him to execute perfectly, and on the team to communicate. If he knows that you know, good setups coming, he'll ult ahead of time and then follow up once they are stunned.
Oh, FaraKrik might be in a little bit of trouble trying to dash away, uses the beads, but it's just not enough. DeathPanter from a distance.
Finds first blood, but it's Simplicity they'd have really low HP bars. Fusify goes for Faeles first, and Dzoni comes in, easy execute. He can even reinitiate if he wants to look for genetics, and he absolutely will bring down the SS Quanger right on top of genetics for a double kill. That's how you accelerate your star player on the Kuang.
Switching it up, they're the ones re-engaging. I thought for a moment that Dzoni and Fusify were going to gank the solo lane based off of their positioning. They were wrapping around behind the fire giant, and then all of a sudden, once they realized FaraKrik was in trouble, immediately going to the left side. Unfortunately for Faeles, he had to use the purification beads earlier on FaraKrik's engage, so he didn't have it against the execute.
But you're right, this is an entire flip of the script from game 1, right? Dzoni and the rest of Flashpoint were able to come back in after the initiation from Simplicity, where they caught out FaraKrik a bit by himself and found the kill. And now the guy they want more than anyone else to have some early kills has him. Dzoni 2-0-0 on this Kuang to get things started, and took down some nice targets. Failing this Arachne,
yep.
You definitely want to slow him down.
Also taking out genetics, giving Fusify the experience advantage, so that should be a winning race to get to level 12 to unlock that second relic. Faeles is going to be about a level and a half behind. Not a good start for an Arachne that's going for this kind of a power curve on the hasten, or not the hasten katana, but just the full out katana tree.
That's right. I think he went stone cutting in the slot last time. He had a toxic blade in there. I don't know if he'll go quite that same strat, though it felt like that was to try and give him the potential to fight up against Dzoni. And there was even a 1v1 in the late game that the Arachne was able to win over Dzoni on the Kuang. So maybe he'll go that same path, and he'll be the one relegated to trying to catch out Dzoni and just win the duel.
Hitting level 9, finishing off Bancroft's talent. Dzoni benefiting heavily off of those 2 early picks, and maniaKK could be benefiting from a low health Sibi.
Sibi does still have that ult, and if he felt he was in real danger, he just goes right into the bird form and makes his way out of there. So I suppose no harm, no foul, though. It looks like he does want to hold on to the ult. We might have an engage on the other side, though, because Kespainify does a good job with the knock-up that deters Faeles and gets the Jing way out.
Dzoni looking for a little bit of poke, maybe trying to bait out some abilities out of genetics. Faeles regrouping now in the mid lane, gonna get stunned out, eats a bomb for his trouble, but he's the one getting engaged on.
That's a ton of damage on the FaraKrik, and you can... He's effectively gone. He cannot afford to stick around in this engagement for now. He'll almost certainly have to back. Looks like he at least wants those back harpies, though, before he goes. And now he'll return to base, working on that Spear of the Magus early on. A very strong item for these mages to chew through some of these prots.
I love this play from FaraKrik after knowing that he has to back to base anyway. Takes a quick peek at his mini-map to see that those back camps were up. It goes a long way for a jungler to do that, knowing that you can still heal with your Assassin's Blessing, but as a mid-mage, not losing any farm up against DeathPanter's Hunter, because Hunters usually win these trades off in the early mid-game portions.
the basic attack trade-off, especially when you're not the one using abilities on DeathPanter, as you used it onto Faeles, and DeathPanter capitalizing on it.
So far, FaraKrik's done a good job of at least staying close to parity here. Though eventually that difference will start to materialize, as it already has. FaraKrik was forced out, a small advantage goes DeathPanter's way. Both these red buffs have just popped up as well. That could be one more point where we see these teams fight. They've already been kind of roaming around in 2- and 3-man groupings, so one of them might get a little bit cheeky and move in for the steal.
Something I wanted to point out, Finch, is that Flashpoint has gotten 6 total Totem of Coups, a total of 750 gold just from that small objective. And that's basically where their lead is coming from. It's not much more than the Totem of Coup differential.
Johnny's gone aggressive to look to steal some farm away from the Order side. Kespainify also got quite bullied out on the left-hand side as well. But again, with that rapid reincarnation, he'll be right back. Johnny makes it out as well without having to expend anything. He has Blink instead of beads or anything like that. So if he was in too much trouble, he might have been taken down.
And he didn't even have to use that Blink to find those 2 kills, really punishing out Faeles, being out of position from killing FaraKrik. He's still been holding on to that Blink. Just been an absolute beast in terms of farming it up.
I'm surprised, that he would prioritize the Blink in this first slot if he's not really going to go aggressive with it. I mean, he's almost level 12, where he could have picked up the Blink anyway, and we haven't really seen him make any plays that have significantly changed the way the game's gone with this Blink. So, like you said, he only counter-initiated with it, so I don't know. I mean, he hasn't gotten a ton of Blink value.
It could be just something that he's so used to picking up that at this point is just second nature.
Sure.
It doesn't matter that he wasn't originally planning on it, because you never really know the course of a game is going to go, depending on certain little factors. Is Fusify going to stun out DeathPanter to allow FaraKrik to follow up?
That's some nice damage, but DeathPanter's still okay, at least for now. He'll back right in the middle of the lane, and Fusify threatens, but cannot actually stop the back, and so he'll get on out of there. That's a good poke. But, and you're right, you can't always know exactly how the game's going to go. I thought we'd have at least seen him, maybe go for a Blink, that not quite work, and then him give up on it. But really, I mean, we haven't seen much at all. Maybe he's been using it to move around the map faster, but for the most part, it's been off cooldown, so I haven't seen him use much at all.
That's something you can do for your starts. If you want to do blue buff as soon as possible, you clear your speed buff, and then you blink towards the blue buff just to get that extra 3-second window.
Well, here's that red buff invade I thought might be happening, but it's a little bit later. Johnny, FaraKrik, Fusify, and Sibi, the whole squad here to secure it, and Faeles forced into the ultimate early. Can find the stun as StreakUp as DeathPanter tries to come in on the backside, but a quick Tiger stun puts DeathPanter in a bad spot, and Johnny blows him up right away with the burst damage from the Kuang, and he disengages with the water illusion.
Not even able to get off that ultimate. DeathPanter dead for 25 seconds. Flashpoint looking for maybe another 5-on-4 play, but it's maniaKK popping things off with the pluck.
But I actually think he might have pulled Johnny away from the rest of the team. He uses the ultimate to buy himself a bit of time to get water illusion up, and Johnny should be out, though it's Fusify, like any good support would, that trades his life. FaraKrik dashes in, has so little mana, but he wants the fight anyway. maniaKK goes down, and now Kespainify and Sibi have him pincered. A double for the Wukong.
A great positioning factor is Sibi applying that pincer maneuver. Genetics very low, has to back on now. Keep in mind, DeathPanter has revived, still has the ultimate, and therefore there's steal potential on the goal Fury. Flashpoint elect to start it.
But man, a 1v4, Flashpoint will take that any day of the week. And I really do wonder if maybe maniaKK wasn't quite able to angle that pluck where he wanted it, like he had to rush it, because it really did feel like he kind of got Johnny out of trouble, pulled him more towards those mid-harpies, and he was kind of able to juke and buy himself some time. He did have to use the ultimate early to sort of get maniaKK out of the fight for a second, but he had time to get water illusion up.
There are not many opportunities to engage in competitive SMITE, so whenever you see an Kuang that has Blink, no purification beads, and you're looking for the pluck, you're kind of just hoping that your teammates are going to be having the angle necessary to follow up. Unfortunate for maniaKK and Co. not finding that kill. And what an aggressive dash from FaraKrik.
Yes, at the end of that fight.
Agni's dashing in offensively is so 50-50. You might as well be flipping a coin at that point. But it was a little calculated because he was dashing in not only for the damage, but also to get near Johnny that was in that mid lane. So he knew that even if he was in trouble after the dash, that Johnny would be in prime position to use the Agni body as a baiting tactic.
And it all started with DeathPanter being the one that gets isolated. Flashpoint came in for the red buff. DeathPanter goes a little bit too far forward, gets caught out, and they're able to find that clean pick. That whole fight's different if DeathPanter's there to at least trade in some damage as Genetics gets stunned. It did not catch the dash as he still has that available, but Dzoni is able to find the execute. The SS Quanger comes out yet again, and Dzoni on the board with 4-0-3. Looking to disengage though, looks like Flashpoint are done with this for now.
They want to get the objective instead. DeathPanter, no ultimate, doesn't have the range to steal this away. StreakUp has plenty of damage if he can find the positioning for it, but I think Flashpoint, they want to find a second kill.
Yeah, they recognize maniaKK was too far by himself. They had a ward right there in that narrow chokeway, so they knew maniaKK was pushed off. They just all in him, burn him down. There's been time, though, for one more person to come back up for Simplicity, so only maniaKK is down right now, as it was Genetics who fell earlier. But this Gold Fury's already done.
Wards win games. Even in a 4-on-5, Simplicity might have been able to at least delay the Gold Fury long enough for Genetics to respawn, but at that ward, spotting maniaKK's positioning, no possible way to get out of that one, knowing that Fusify was still in Dragon form, stunts with a jump, FaraKrik with a bomb stun, and then the rest of the damage out of Flashpoint. Too much for this level 13 Sobek to handle.
And all picks are not created equal, right? Sometimes you get a pick, but you have to commit so much to it that your team still can't stick around. Because of the information they had, they just kind of jumped on him, cleanly burned him quickly, and we're like, yeah, we got plenty to go back to Gold Fury with. This is nice, though, for Simplicity. If they can find this Pyromancer to try and answer back, I think Sibi recognizes it, but he's going to be too late. The objective goes down.
Step in the right direction, trying to keep the game a little bit less lopsided. Flashpoint still controlling about a 4,000 goal lead, closer to the 16-minute mark. The experience tells a different tale, however.
But if you were out there considering selling your Dzoni on Kuang stock, I think you can pull up on that one. And my man's still pretty good at it. Now, to be fair, Flashpoint got a nice double kill for him to start this game off, and he's been ahead of Faeles ever since on that one, since Faeles was one of the ones that fell for that double. But I mean, he's piloted it perfect ever since. You just can't afford to give him a good start on this guy.
He's a part of every kill Flashpoint have got, and half of them went credited to him, actually. Still working on more rings. He got the Demonic Grip first, probably going to be the Telekines immediately after. A good amount of movement speed, penetration boots to follow soon, and he's still looking for another pick on this left side of the map.
Faeles has gone the same build he went last time, too. Golden Blade Stone Cutting into the Toxic Blade as Genetics takes a ton of poke from FaraKrik. That's all 3 bombs committed to bring him low. And now a jump in from Fusify as well. They take down the pillar, no follow-up damage on the DeathPanter because of its placement, but they're still considering threatening this tier 1.
FaraKrik's poke was twofold. Number one, he knew it wasn't going to be a kill. It was a damage check, and it was enough of a damage check to enable this tier 1 tower siege.
Like, yeah, we can blow them up. Dzoni on the loop around behind that he's so known for. The tier 1 tower down as well. Big stuns from FaraKrik to bring them low. Sibi and Dzoni engage at the same time. It's perfect, and the cuddle's enough to take down DeathPanter. The rest of the squad has to leave, but Sibi wants more still. Forces out the rewind from StreakUp, but he goes right back to the rest of the team. maniaKK falls to FaraKrik, and now the rest of Flashpoint still standing to burn him down.
Dzoni taking out Genetics. Surrender vote actually being started slow, not in range, but the execute, not even needed with Kespainify getting the kill.
Well, if you respect Dzoni, you know he's not going to throw a lead with a 5-0-6 out Kuang. Maybe that's what they're considering, is how are we going to turn this one around. But a very, very impressive fight there from Flashpoint. And I love this aerial view that we have, because you can see Sibi and Dzoni perfectly lining up their engagements there to flank them, to pinch them from 2 angles. And now, why not? Let's just head right on over to the FG.
Yet again, DeathPanter dying without using the ultimate.
Yeah.
You gotta at least get the damage somehow. Aegis was still intact. His positioning has been taken advantage of by the backline every single moment.
Wow, and it absolutely is going to be the surrender from Simplicity, throwing in the towel here after Flashpoint got to a good start. And to be honest, Totally, I don't know if you can blame him, man. I respect this Flashpoint team enough to say they're probably not going to mess that up.
At 18 minutes, 12-2, I agree with you, Finch. You might as well throw in the towel that early and then focus on what you're trying to adjust in game number 3.
Yeah, little is gained from just gassing Dzoni on this out Kuang, right? Letting him start to feel himself a little bit. So don't even let them get into a rhythm. Disrupt that. Get your mindset back. I think this is one that really just came down to maybe a little bit of execution being off the mark. You can fix that in Game 3.
That's right. That early play from our onto FaraKrik was getting punished with a rotation from Dzoni.
I think so, too. Well, Game 3 should be up here in just a moment. Let's get it back to the desk, though, for their thoughts.
Thanks so much, Vincentoli. I do want to say, though, Ryan, 18-minute surrender in this meta right now. It's a little early on considering how long we've seen games go, especially the early game not being as insurmountable now. But they did have a fire giant.
Yeah, they had a fire giant and a really, really, really fed out Kuang. And it's also Dzoni playing that really fed out Kuang. You're right. There is comeback potential there, I think, still for Simplicity. But if they aren't in the right mental state to make that comeback, then may as well move on. And, you know, I have no idea what that team environment is like. Maybe when they're losing, it doesn't start going too well in the comms, and then they can set themselves up for a bad Game 3. This might just be the best way for them to reset mentally and get ready for the next one.
I guess I can also see the fact of, like, not letting Flashpoint stay comfortable and enjoying their lead, so to speak, you know, and enjoying the fact it's going well. So just get on to the next one.
Maybe, I don't know. As a player, I think I would prefer to have you surrender and just be like, yeah, I'm so sick. You know you would have a shot.
And now I'm going to stomp you again in Game 3.
That's right. You know, it's like, I don't think that really would bother me if the enemy team surrendered in that instance.
We mentioned the Ao Kuang, obviously in Game 1 didn't do as well. Faeles got off to a great start and just kept that going and shut down Dzoni. But Game 2, different story. We did mention there was no Fafnir this game for them, but I don't think Fafnir would have really made much of a difference with how this started off.
No, Genetics definitely struggled in this one. Maybe Fafnir does a little bit better for him, but really this was just the Dzoni show. I mean, everyone on Flashpoint played well against Sibi, 3-0 and 6 very early in this game. Again, it's over in 18 minutes. He was able to rotate early. The Sobek for maniaKK got punished, just not having enough impact this early. You're not drafting Sobek to do well in the first 18 minutes, so he's never given a chance to get off the ground.
That's when I look at that comp, I'm like, well, it's very much focused on trying to just chill out to the late game and farm up, but they weren't really given the opportunity to enough, I guess, from Flashpoint's point of view here.
Faeles also is on a pick that does not fight particularly well into the late game, and he was really far down against Dzoni and XP. So once your Arachne falls behind, that's your counter pick option. I mean, look at Game 1, where Simplicity's ahead the whole game, and still Faeles can't easily box Dzoni one-on-one when they're the team ahead. Now imagine that when he's behind 100 gold a minute. That's not going to work out.
That number's exactly the one I was looking at too, about 100 gold a minute difference between some of the players on those teams. And well, over a couple of minutes, that's a lot of gold difference that's going to accumulate over and over again. So that's 2 games down so far, as we now get into the deciding third game. What's going to happen with this one? Do we expect to see Ao Kuang again? I guess we do,
no,
right?
I don't.
Really?
I don't think so, no. I mean, you beat it Game 1.
You shut it down Game 1. Yep.
You got crushed by it in Game 2. Now you've got a 50-50 shot at shutting it down. I mean, I don't particularly like those odds. The Giannis pickup for FaraKrik is really, really strong, but DeathPanter also plays really strong Giannis. Why not just pick that instead of the Chronos first overall? Are you really that scared of that going away from you? I mean, StreakUp has played pretty well on it historically, but he's got to have a bigger god pool than just Chronos.
He probably does as well. I think there is options there for them.
Yeah.